We are the champions. Hey guys, Neptune here, and today I will teach you how to trigger people. Yeah, that's right, because on every video of mine that features my humble, not try-hard gameplay, people go crazy and ask me to stop doing gestures being BM and disrespectful. So that makes me an expert when it comes to taunts. In this video, we will inspect all of the taunts in Dark Souls to find which one will get you the most hate mail. Starting with my favorite gesture, well, one of them, clap. Clap is amazing. It has a lot of contextual meaning, but mostly it is sarcastic. When you defeat someone flawlessly, doing clap almost screams, "Yeah, well done, retard," and I get the most hate for using it. You can spin while clapping, but it doesn't add any points to it because it's already 8 out of 8. Then we take a look at the point down. Point down is a classical gesture that means down you go or something like that. Very good gesture to deliver the message if your opponent is a total scum and doesn't deserve to be on the same elevation level as you. However, the best thing about it in Dark Souls 3 is that you can spin while doing it. Spinning with point down gets you bonus points. Clear favorite of mine, 8 out of 8. Next up is, well, what is it? Or welcome gesture. I feel like it's so overused because of the meme build and shit, so it doesn't really trigger people that much. Not to mention that it's a lot worse than its Dark Souls 1 equivalent. I'd give it 4 out of 8. This looks like an innocent gesture at first glance, but don't be fooled. Nothing triggers people more than waving at them after you send them to bonfire without taking any damage in the fight. If used before the duel, it's a cute friendly gesture. When used after, it's like, "Go back to your bonfire, bitch!" Very good gesture, but bit short of spin point down or clap, so it's solid 7 out of 8. Now it's time for non-gesture taunts. Dark Souls 3 has some of them. If you watch my videos on regular basis, you know that I'm a big fan of torch spam. Something about it is so goofy, I can't explain it. The way your character looks dead serious with their arm jerking the torch, I love it. Sadly, I don't think it triggers people that much, so just because it's a personal favorite of mine, I'd give it 6 out of 8. Next one, however, is really good. The Avalon Arrogant Walk of Peace. I did briefly mention it in the unusual top tier weaponry video that featured Avalon, but basically just aim at the sky and walk with it. Slowly. Pissed people for no good reason, and I've got a lot of hate mail for it. The bad thing about it is that you have to carry a crossbow on you to execute it. However, it works with all crossbows, so you don't really need to be using Avalon. Certainly 7 out of 8. And this is the point when we turn this video into one big science video because we continue the research comparing the taunts of Dark Souls 3 to the taunts of other Souls games. So let's just get into Dark Souls 2 and see what it can offer. Spoiler alert, Dark Souls 2 has the best taunts and gestures. First up is the glorious decapitation gesture. I feel like it's too edgy to trigger people, quite a bit over the top, but it's still very good and it has a very strong message that doesn't really need much context. I'd say 6 out of 8 and no more. No way gesture, however, is probably the best taunt in Dark Souls 2. It can mean so many things and most of them are pretty mean. With the most known meaning of "don't do this stupid shit against me," it's an excellent tool at pissing people off. I rated 8 out of 8, no doubts. Next up is Smoke. Shrug is my favorite Dark Souls 1 gesture, but we will get to it in a bit. Dark Souls 2 Smoke serves the same purpose, and I'd argue that it doesn't trigger people that much, but it's still an excellent gesture to express yourself when you have no fucking clue what your opposition was doing. Still, since we're after the hardcore taunts that triggered people really hard, I'd give it 5 out of 8, I guess. Dark Souls 2 variation of, well, what is it, is a bit better than Dark Souls 3 variation for some unknown reason. However, it suffers from the same problem, it's just overused. Still can get you some hate mail. I'd give it 5 out of 8 just because Dark Souls 2 gestures are better than Dark Souls 3 gestures by default. Pumped up gesture is a perfect way to tell your opponent something like, "Yeah, good boy, you tried, almost there." Pisses people for good, especially if they can't even hit you. Solid 7 out of 8. Now we're in dangerous territory. A very hard taunt to execute because it requires you to have shield in each hand, but oh boy, it's like what? Yeah, it's the most Dark Souls taunt in Dark Souls. Clearly, it's 9 out of 8, uncontested. With all that being said, we move to Dark Souls 1, starting with the best taunt in the game, Look Skyward, also known as facepalm. Nothing communicates your facepalm better than an actual facepalm. If the fight was too easy, no better way to express it other than just going for a facepalm. Without a doubt, I rated 8 out of 8. The original Well What Is It gesture has the same problem as all other Well What Is It gestures. It's overused. However, compared to other versions of the same gesture, the Dark Souls 1 version is clearly superior. Okay, 6 out of 8. Now, you can't move while gesturing in Dark Souls 1, but the point down gesture in Dark Souls 1 deserves to be rated 8 out of 8 even without sick Dark Souls 3 spins, because look at this finger closely. When you execute the gesture, you mean it. Down you go, boy, and it doesn't really need any context. Excellent. Dark Souls 1 Shrug is legendary. Albeit it doesn't trigger people that much, it's an excellent gesture to manifest your "I have no clue what you're doing, mate" kind of thoughts. But there is even a better gesture. When you try to use a consumable but don't have anything in the slot, your character will perform the shrug and you can just spam it. Oh, it's magnificent. 6 out of 8. Now this one is hard to illustrate without a body, but I'll do my best to explain it. It's a silly gesture, a friend of mine showed it to me and I've been in love with it ever since. I hope he's watching this video right now, but yeah. After you defeat an opponent, just turn your back to their dead corpse and do proper bow, so that you're giving them, well, an ass. Goofy shit and I love it, however most people don't get it, so it's a bit weak. 4 out of 8. So to sum it up, Dark Souls 2 has the best taunts, no doubts about it. If you want to trigger people in Dark Souls 3, make sure to clap a lot and do spinned point downs. An easy way to get a lot of hate mail. In Dark Souls 2, however, you can be very creative, and if you can afford the shield block spam, go for it because it's insanely effective. As for Dark Souls 1, Look Skyward is where it's at. Very simple gesture, very efficient. But yeah, all 3 games have very different taunts, and all 3 games have that one good gesture or taunt that you always want to use. So guys, there you have it. Thank you for watching, don't forget to support me on Patreon, and I'll see you next time.